The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Angry Chicken, the podcast all about an elaborate coin flip masquerading as a card game called Hearthstone. I didn't just lose to Mayor Noggenfogger. You just lost to Mayor Noggenfogger. Someone else introduce themselves. I freaking quit.
You know, Mayor Noggenfogger, if that's the card that tilts you, I got some bad news.
I've actually seen quite a lot of Mayor Noggenfogger lately.
Really? What?
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
I don't
Where
know.
are you guys playing? Is this
Wait.
another server?
Stop everything. I don't know what like candy unicorn land Jocelyn's living in where people intentionally put Mayor Noggenfogger in their deck. But no, I just had the most RNG loss of RNG history because I was playing mage on wild and against another mage because I'm over rank 15 now, and all anyone is playing on the wild ladder are some version of a mage deck. It's all I've seen since I hit 15 on the
A lot of
wild
mage
ladder.
right now, yeah.
Yeah, and they played Unstable Portal and got a Mayor Noggenfogger.
Into the Noggenfogger.
Yes.
All right.
And I lost count at some point. I lost count at like 10 moves, but only 2 of more than 10 moves by my opponent hit my freaking face. And there was, at one point, like 13 minions on board.
Oh my god.
And it still hit my face, and every move I made either hit my own board or my own face.
Wow.
See, that's hilarious.
No, it's not!
That sounds so fun, dude. I don't know
I
what you're
know.
talking about.
Ugh.
Look at this great story you have for the beginning of the show. Look at this. I
Exactly.
mean, that's what Hearthstone's about, man. It's about creating stories.
It's
Yep.
the storytelling, exactly.
It's about...
No one remembers the time you traded very tactfully for the last 8 turns and worked your way towards a snowball victory. No. They remember the time that you Ragnaros hit their face with 7 minions on board and won the game. That's the times they remember.
Yep, everyone remembers the worst possible moment of playing Hearthstone, which is I think we've just
That's
stumbled
actually
on.
the problem. They don't remember the best one. They all remember the worst one.
Yes.
Right? They don't remember the time when their Ragnaros hit the perfect target. They like gloss right over that. They move
Yep.
on to the next thing.
Normally I would say I was being salty with my next comment, but this time I'm being 100% true. The reason for that is, Dills, is this particular moment has never happened to this degree the other way around for me. I've never won Hearthstone the way I just lost Hearthstone. Like that.
That's because
horribly.
you're not putting Noggenfogger in your deck.
Yeah, you're
yet.
not playing
That's
enough
your
Noggenfogger.
first
I've
mistake.
played plenty of Unstable Portals, so I don't know what you guys are getting at.
Well, yeah. Actually, like these days, Mage is. I will put this out there. Mage has the most RNG cards that are good, right? So they have the most cards that draw random cards, or do something kind of at random, which are actually very playable, and they're like dominating arena, and suddenly they're dominating constructed again.
Yeah.
So this is not good. This is somehow Ungoro has like gone this like full circle. Where we're like, oh yeah, Mage. Why were we not all playing Mage?
Twice.
Everyone's
There
doing
are
it.
2 circles, dude. There's 2 of them, and it's not even a Venn if in the Venn diagram it's just 2 circles on top of each other, because the other thing that came full circle is Shaman is now the other amazing deck in Standard as
Yeah, that is
well,
weird
right?
too. Yeah.
Like Ungoro hit, and we're like, wow, Mage and Shaman, how the mighty have fallen. Wait, never mind, it's June.
Yeah, we're 2 months in now. It's kind of crazy to think that we're 2 months in, because
It doesn't feel like it at all.
no, it still seems like there's lots of stuff I haven't explored, but yet I do notice the meta certainly is like calming. I don't know. It's just becoming I don't know, like just homogenizing. What's the word I really want to hear? Like it's just become this place where everyone now knows, oh, these decks are really good. Okay, got it. There's no more people like testing out a bunch of different stuff.
I think
So there
leveled
is
out is a
text being
good
made.
leveled out. I think is a good term. I think it's leveled out.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of a variety, I think, in not only the classes you see, but the archetypes within the classes. A lot of the classes that are considered widely to be top tier have multiple archetypes, which was as down as we were on mean streets. That was kind of what we kept coming back to was, well, at least we're still seeing a good spectrum of classes represented. But it's even better now, and even though it has leveled out, I'm not getting bored playing. There's nothing boring about losing to Mayor Noggenfogger, by the way.
No, it's not boring. Rage-inducing, I could see. Boring,
yeah, I was
no.
gonna say I've stopped playing. Like I played a lot of ladder last month, and I haven't played as much this month because every time I queue into a mage, and I'm just like, no. I don't like this.
Well, the beauty of it, though, is you can actually tech in Eater of Secrets and have it go off all the time now.
I know.
But
I even have an Eater of Secrets in my own mage deck so that I could just win the mirror match because I was playing the other night. I was doing my 15 games thing, and I think over 50% were mages, which was so crazy because I was concerned about Pirate Warrior towards the end of last season where I was like, okay, I got this cool secret mage deck. It's awesome. It's rocking. Oh, no, Pirate Warrior. Here they come. And they were just rocking my face. And now it's just these mage mirror matches where we're just seeing who plays Mana Worm first and then who gets some free secrets out. But, look, I'm glad that they're shifting at least because this has been sudden at least. This is a sudden onslaught of mage. It's like the last, I would say, week or so. It's just gone crazy.
Yeah, I feel like I mean I know Eater of Secrets, yes, is definitely a tech card to go against Mage, but I think that the problem with the current state of Mage is it's so hard to counter because, like you mentioned, there are so many random effects that you're just like, I don't know what to do. I can't flood the board because it might have 4 flame strikes. I can't make big dudes because it might have 4 polymorphs. I can't let my health go too low because they're gonna have an 8-mana pyroblast. Like it's just there's so many different things that they can do now out of the same deck build that you're just like, WTF, how do I even counter this? Like,
well, but the good news is Eater of Secrets still always counters them because all the
it does always
mages,
well, it gets rid of all of their secrets, but it doesn't get rid of the bazillion fire.
No, I know, but those mages still
portals
rely on Ice Block. Those ones, the Discover mages still rely heavily on Ice Block, and the secret mages, the pure secret mages that don't generally run Ice Block, which we're going to talk about one a little bit later in the show. They run so many secrets and rely on those being their tempo swings. So and then when you if I am playing that mage deck and someone Eater of Secrets me, I auto concede because I lost the game. So yeah, which is another I really do want to delve into this the whole thing of that the way all these tech cards work is that if they hit the thing they're insane and if they don't they're terrible. I don't get that. That's bad. That's not how these should be designed. It should be the opposite way around. Like if I eat your secrets, I eat your secrets. Why do I also need to get a buff too? Come on. Anyway.
I don't know, man. But I mean, Dills by the law of Dills, when I finally break down and remove something and put Eater of Secrets in, I should never see another mage for the rest of that play session.
Probably, yeah. That's generally how that works.
So I don't even know why we're having this
discussion. But it's like washing your car. If you're in a drought, go wash your car. It'll rain. You just gotta.
Yeah,
it's like you put the Eater of Secrets in as mage repellent, not necessarily to win the games.
Just to stop playing mages.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with just no more mages.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a fly swatter if you want to kill the flies, or mosquitoes. I guess that would be a better term. You throw on some off. If you just want them not to be around in the first place.
So you're advocating for Team 5 to design off-style cards and not so much fly swatter style cards.
If you put this card in your deck, you will not play a mage again. Yeah, it says that on the card. It's like a Prince Malchazar, but it just says at the beginning of this this game, if it's a mage, you win.
or just re-queue.
Or reach you.
Yeah, re-queue. I was gonna say, if you just win, oh my god, people would just put all of those cards in their deck and be like, no matter who I queue into, I win.
Yeah.
Throw
But you
versus.
gotta-
Dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun. The little thing spinning again.
Oh god.
Fantastic. That's really good. Hey, so I mean I did that at the top mostly for jokes, and I just had to tell somebody. It literally just happened before the show. I wasn't trying to get.
That's beautiful though.
I wasn't
You played a game of Hearthstone that you had to talk about. That's still. I mean, if the game isn't doing that, then that's worse than the game being card flippy and random.
Okay, just 2 points. I would like to make a 2-point period at the end of this entire conversation.
All right. Sure.
A, yes, that's all fine, cool. B, this better never happen again, or I'm quitting this game.
You know what? If it happens again, I'm going to tell Daniel Negreanu to give you a call and talk you down off the ledge.
Oh, thank you.
I think everyone, we just need to all tech Mayor Noggenfogger into our decks so that no matter
Now on,
who's
yes,
scared,
everybody listening, tech Mayor Noggenfogger into your deck. Figure out what rank Garrett's at.
yeah, and
Queue
just
in,
like
man.
spam games and try to queue it. Like, oh, not Garrett. Okay, concede.
It
Oh,
will
Garrett.
not count on friendly games, by the way. So,
Right.
I'm not, it's like you gotta somehow like snipe me on ladder.
Yeah, we're just going to fill the ladder with Mayor Noggenfoggers. Even people that don't listen to the show are going to be like, so many people are playing
Yeah,
Noggenfogger. Maybe
going on
it's
with
secretly
Noggenfogger?
good. And it's just going to spread like a virus through Hearthstone.
Like a
Fantastic.
random ass.
You'll
fight.
never be safe, Garrett. You'll never be safe.
Oh, so good, so good. Well, there's going to be a lot of mage talk today, as a matter of fact. It's our strategy segment, and I'm sure it'll come up again because anytime I talk to Jocelyn off air about Hearthstone, she's just like, effing mages, man, effing mages. So, anyways,
Which
before.
is funny because I was totally into them right at the very beginning of the expansion, but not anymore.
Well, anyways, before we get into news, we do have a sponsor to thank this week. Thank you to .game domains, which you can get any darn place. Domain names are sold, web.com, hover, or just go straight to the source at get.game. Relatively new domain name, folks. Still lots of names spelt correctly available. E3 is coming up, and as we've mentioned before, and I'm going to mention again, the .game crew are going to be there. They're going to have a booth on the floor of E3. And if you go and say hello to them, they've got some swag for you, and I believe they're also giving away some pretty sizable discounts, $75 off codes at their booth at E3. So head on over there, booth 2550, which is apparently very close to the official like E3 merch store. So if you're trying to find them and you're there it is. But go over there, give them a high five, and tell them thanks for supporting the Angry Chicken, because we certainly appreciate their support. And we're pretty sure you'll appreciate a .game domain if you're developing a game. So go check them out.
Noggenfogger.game available. I'm looking it up, dude.
Is it? Now the most important thing though is if you buy that, you have to code your website so that when you go to noggenfogger.game, that it just randomly
Takes you to a
selects
random website.
another website to send you to.
Or you try to
Another
click
random
on things and it clicks other
Oh, it
random
just
links
clicks
on the
other
pages
things.
instead.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's amazing.
Then you can never leave.
All right. Q into Garrett.game, also available, by the way.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So, awesome. So, thank you for your support again, .game domains. And now let's move into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
Hey, so we got our patch in the middle of the week last week. I believe it went up on Thursday, because if memory serves, I got out of into the Nexus, logged in Hearthstone, and was like, hey, what's all this about? There's a Tavern Brawl beta button is in there now, but would have been nice if it was up a week ago when I actually went to or not a Tavern Brawl, a Fireside Gathering. Would have been nice if it was up a week ago when I went to a Fireside Gathering.
Like, wait a minute, Tavern Brawl beta? What?
What is? I am having an audio issue. What's that? Let me try refreshing my mixer. What is happening here? Check 1 2.
I hear,
Oh man,
I hear you.
I wonder, is this my mixer or is this Skype?
Is it done? Is it done?
Yeah, it's It's not me. It's
Did you do that on purpose? I was like, what the F is happening right now?
Joss and Dills turned into bees. Oh,
okay.
wow.
Now you're back.
All right.
I'm not sure it was my mixer. It might have been Skype.
Weird.
Yeah, very, very strange. Very, very
If we
strange.
suddenly changed? Yeah, it's weird. But see, nothing changed for me. So
Right,
yeah, no,
right.
we sounded fine to each other, I think.
okay.
Right. That's why.
Dill's doing his
Yeah,
stupid,
that's
weird.
Skype makes sense. All right, where were we?
I don't know. Hopefully that will not happen again. Anyway, the big thing is that deck sharing is now live. You can copy a deck directly in Hearthstone, send it over to your friend, they can copy it, and then it'll just automatically import when you go to make a new deck.
And there's other small things that are kind of interesting. I haven't tried the deck sharing thing, but a lot of people have been saying it's good. You guys said you've tried it.
It's great. Yeah, like there's all the fan sites have buttons now on all of their decks, and you could just click the button and then you go into Hearthstone and it fills your list. I haven't actually tried it yet in any way where I don't have all the cards. Like mine has just automatically filled 30 cards, so I'm not sure how that works. It probably just leaves your slots open, but
Yeah, I think it puts it in gray the same way it does with recipes.
Yeah, it's kind of a
And
purple.
you can click on it and craft the card if you don't have it, or you can ask for a suggestion or whatever.
Cool.
but,
So yeah, I haven't done that yet, but
The other kind of interesting stuff was the golden cards in the deck list thing, which definitely was very cool to finally have live, because I always don't use golden cards if I have one of in the past. So now I can finally start using at least my single golden card. But now
man.
here's the other thing.
I throw all my goldens in there all the time. I don't care if I don't have two. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
but it's
all the
so annoying
shinies.
to look at the list, right? It's like you just have this giant list for a deck that's not. Oh, I can't do that.
But
not
all
anymore.
the shinies, Stills, all the shinies.
But
No, I'll have no shinies instead.
You're breaking my heart.
Well, let's fix
I will
that.
have no shinies rather than giant long list. But then the other thing that's kind of interesting, you can, in an arena deck, you can drag a golden card out of your list, and then de-goldenize it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were at all concerned about people discovering from your deck, seeing the non-golden or golden version, then seeing you play the other version at some point later in the game, and then getting that super serious competitive advantage, well, Brode has addressed that. Or bet Team 5. But the physical embodiment of Team 5 is Brode. So, but they have addressed that. So there you go.
Yeah.
One of the
And
things they
now
did-
people won't make bad card choices because it doesn't matter. You can de-goldenize everything. So
Sure. No, they still will. I still think
take the golden ones. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
People still make bad decisions. Yeah, the way I've been using this, or recently used it, was to just copy my own deck and then make it again, and then swap it to wild and remove some cards and put in wild cards because I wanted to make a wild secret mage. And
There you go. So you just don't lose your original version. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I
Well,
was
because
like,
there's so many core cards, right?
Right.
That makes it so much easier than having to go, oh, yeah, frostbolts, fireballs.
yeah, exactly. Because I was in bed on my iPad. I hate deck building on the iPad because the stupid keyboard is awful and all of that jazz. So it's like, well, this will at least get me most of the deck list, and then I'll just drag some things out and throw some things in.
Yeah. The other cool thing is you can save old decks if you really want to be able to come back to them while you're, you could have like a little file.
It's
and
like
a little text
infinite
file or
deck
something,
slots.
and just have them to go back to at some point later. You used to kind of be able to do that, but you had to go to like a Hearthstone or something like that and build your deck list there, and then save it as your own personal deck list. But that just
And then
takes a long
rebuild
time.
it again too.
Well, then, yeah,
the cool-
you still have to refill it.
The
yeah.
cool thing about
Oh my
saving
god!
these,
Oh my god! Yeah.
yeah, saving these codes is if you have them just chilling in like a notepad doc or something, you can just copy the code again, and bam, there you go. You've got your crazy deck. Because I always like for whatever reason I've been playing against a lot of listeners this month. A lot of folks are like, "Hey, I have the Gold Quest, Garrett, want to play?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And that keeps happening, and they all have really fun, just absurd, ridiculous decks that they want to play against me. And I never keep any of my just insane wild decks around because I don't end up actually playing them that much. So I'm gonna go make some really stupid decks and save those codes.
I hope that TempoStorm.com's sealed generator starts using this thing too, because I played a few matches just against people watching the stream, and I did like a money match, which was really fun. But the boring part of it is we're streaming us drafting the decks, right? And then I stream me slowly building the stupid decks in the actual
Oh,
client.
that's a really good point.
And-
Yeah, because I'm sure
yeah.
it's I'm sure the code is, like, works a certain way. So if they can figure that out, they should be able to build a tool that whatever combination of cards you end up making a deck out of, they can just provide you with a Hearthstone
Yeah.
code for a deck.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially the same way that, you know, like I was saying, like MTG uses it or other card games use it, where they use like a text doc or whatever, but then there is like a code at the end that just kind of represents like that set of cards. So yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult for them to figure out what that code is and apply it.
Yep.
But this opens up the ability for other tools out there to do the same type of thing. Like people could make a tool set to build in different formats, right? Like we could ban cards and things like that. If third party people want to do that, this opens up the ability to make that process a lot simpler. So whether or not they ever put in the client, at least this helps the community like build out their tools. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, other than that, we got some chatter from Ben Brode this week, and he mentioned the word tournament mode, and my heart skipped multiple beats, and I had to be resuscitated.
This is the biggest news of the week.
Yeah.
Well,
kind of.
But it's basically the exact same thing that they've said for like a year and a half now.
I mean, no, this is not at all. This is a lot more than they've said.
It's more, but it's the exact same message. It is that players want different things and they don't know how to implement it. They think they've done it already with Heroic Tavern Brawl, blah, 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 blah.
I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
That. I think this is much. I think they went much further here.
I disagree.
Where, and I don't think that he's going as far as like giving us what we want, but he's going much further than, oh, it's fine the way it is, which is kind of how it was forever.
All right, I'm super skeptical, but I also disagree. So I'm gonna go in between. I'm in skeptic camp with Jocelyn, but I'm not in like turd all over this camp. Which is where I would also maybe put Jocelyn right now.
Sure.
Hey, I would say I've been in that camp many times. I may have founded that camp. Anyway, so to give you an idea of what the story is, if you weren't around for it, it started with Ben answering a couple of questions from an @Vascro on Twitter, who asked him two questions. Me and people are really curious. One, will there be a change about seasonal grinding? Two, what about tournament mode? And Ben replied saying, one, yes. So just yes, there will be a change.
There's changes to ladder coming, yay.
To ladder.
I think is the news.
Yeah, and then two, he said, I think it would be great for Hearthstone, tournament mode that is, but folks want different things from it, tough to make everyone happy, but worth it. And we want to distill it down, that's more or less the message here. He did, however, then go on Reddit after this like kind of discussion made it onto Reddit and got like 500 plus upvotes, and was like, hey guys, I'd like to get in here and say a little bit more. 140 characters don't always cut it. And he left a very long post. We're not going to read the whole thing in its entirety here. I recommend you go and do so yourself. But we will talk about some of the highlights. He started off saying, hey, I think there are 4 major weaknesses to our current rank system. He said, 1, that top-end players have to grind too much to get fun matches each month. 2, low-end players have very little progression, just a few wins, and then they get stuck at rank 20 to 17. This is the vast majority of active players. Number 3, new players who enter ranked get crushed hard after a pretty good experience in casual. And finally, number 4, doing the same thing over and over again each month feels like a grind. And he followed that up with, I think we can do all that. He said that the hardest to hit one is going to be number 4, since progression is fun, but the more you have, the more grindy it feels. So let's just start with that before we move on and talk about the next thing.
Sure.
I think this is great because it shows quite clearly that they understand the problems with the rank system, and I think, like, looking at his list, these are the weaknesses that the 3 of us and the rest of the community, I think, has really kind of come to. Like, these are what we think the weaknesses of the rank system are. So it shows Team 5 has a really good understanding of that. So I'm happy about this stuff. I think that they're listening and they feel what we're feeling, and that's a good thing because I don't feel like they missed anything in these 4 points. Do you guys think that there's anything missing from this list?
other than the obvious of why does it take so long for some of this stuff to get figured out. But yes.
Well, but I mean, like, if you take timelines out of it, just
like is there a
when
number
you
5
look at
and
the
number
ranked,
6?
when you look at the ranked system, is there anything that's missed on this list? And I don't really think so. It's talking about top end players, and it nails how they feel. Low end players, and that's the low end player experience. New players, like the only group of players that aren't really mentioned are the people who kind of their goal every month is just to get to the top of the reward system, and even then, that's kind of addressed with number 4. Doing the same thing over and over again feels like a grind. Like, a lot of people, their goal is just get to rank 5 because that's where, the rewards are the rewards, and the push to legend, that's just way too much past rank 5. That's just, a lot of people don't have time for that. So rank 5 is the goal instead of legend. And I think point 4 addresses those players. So I don't feel like they've got kind of low, middle, top, and new. Those are kind of the 4 players, and I think they nailed it with what the problems are for each of those groups.
Well, I would say that there's another problem. The other problem is that the experience that you get from playing Hearthstone doesn't equate to the experience that you see people when you watch Hearthstone. So
that is true.
you don't see people playing a series. You don't get to do that. There's no way to do that unless you go outside of the ranked ladder system. But that's the only thing that's really offered, right? Like, it's either that
and that one,
Tavern Brawl, it's Arena.
Yeah, and that I would say is definitely ranked adjacent. Like very ranked adjacent, but I'm not sure it fits as nicely in this list. It's like, what's the issue with the current rank system? Like, I mean, if you start talking about esports, then you pull that in because it does involve rank system because you can qualify through the ladder.
That's how a lot.
But it's okay. But I would say it's a problem with ranked system that the next thing addresses. Tournament mode addresses this issue with the rank system, right?
Right.
Where then you can decide, like, do I want to live in the rank system or do I want to live in like the tournament system, right? And like you get to decide that for yourself. And I think that it's important to know that like one affects another, right? Like if Arena was different than it was now, it would affect how many people play ranked and what goes on there. Like all these things do have some sort of symbiotic relationship with each other at a certain level. So adding in like a real tournament system actually does affect the rank system as a whole. If they made 0 changes to it, I think it would. So,
yeah. I mean, even in Brode's comments, he said, I think number 4, which is doing the same thing over and over again each month, feels like a grind, is going to be the hardest one to tackle. And he continues to say he thinks that a potential tournament mode could help with that.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, he sees the relationship there as well. Yeah. Which is, I think, really important to know that yes. Right now, Tom chat saying 4 points, 1 for every year it's taken them to make the list. I think that's a little unfair because they changed the 4 years. 4 years ago there was a Grand Master or whatever, 3 stars at each thing, and then you went to the top and then you stayed there forever. That was the ranked ladder. So there's been changes since then, and we've gotten the ranked floors, and we've gotten other things. There's been changes.
Most of those changes happened very recently, though. I mean, I'm with Tom. It's been forever. I mean, ladder was more or less untouched for the longest period.
It was untouched for like what 2.5 years, right there in the middle, because we had a long time of beta where it was just that whatever thing that didn't matter.
Yeah, it depends if you consider ranked rewards as changing ladder or not, right? Because
that did change ladder.
That came partway through, and then we got ranked floors recently. So they've kind of like tweaked it, and I understand not wanting to make big, huge, sweeping changes to it. You kind of have to do one thing, see how that plays out, because they don't have a PTR. Even if they did have a PTR, they probably wouldn't get enough players playing on the PTR to actually measure what a true ladder experience would be. They can sim the crap out of it, but that's still a robot versus real people with real lives. So how is it all going to...
I was just going to say, in all honesty, it's not working terribly. It's just not working perfectly, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know that when I log into Hearthstone, what do I play most of the time? Like, ranked is still giving me the option that I choose, right? Yeah. So... it's still working. But I think you guys are definitely like not wrong that that's too long for no changes. I just think there's a reason why it's been that long, not just because they just don't want to or they're not thinking about it or whatever. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Though the correct answer, Dills, when you log into Hearthstone, what do you play? Is best of 1. You could close your eyes and hit a button no matter what you land on. You're playing best of 1.
Yeah, that's. that's an interesting thing. By the way, we haven't talked about Gwent at all on this show, have we?
What is there to say? It is so unlike Hearthstone.
It is crazy different. But yeah, like a match is a best of 3, even though it's a best of 1. It is so weird. But you get the best of 3 feel while being a best of 1. Isn't that interesting? But you know, like I really do think like, yeah, you could shorten the whole ladder experience and make all of them like races to 2, right? Best of 3s. And you'd have already a more positive experience. In my mind, the problem therein lies, though, that then this doesn't fix it for everybody, right? Because then, like, the guy who has fought and clawed his way to get 1 good deck is like, wait, now I got to have 2? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's like there's always, like, a bad, bad scenario for somebody, which makes it better for other people. So it's just tough stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really I think Brode hit the nail on the head here with that last thing. Is, you know, you do the same thing over and over again. It's going to feel like a grind, and I think a tournament mode would really help fix that. I don't really want rank to change. That's not necessarily what I'm advocating for. I don't want to replace ranked with some new version that is best of 3 or whatever. If I had to choose between best of 1 and best of 3, I would say let's murder it and let's get a best of 3 in here. But that's not the discussion I want to have. I think adding a tournament mode that has a different way to play, and again, as much as I enjoy Heroic Tavern Brawl, and I will once again say I crapped all over it and was proven wrong. I really liked it. It still is the same Hearthstone we've always played since the very beginning. No matter what mode you're playing in, at the end of the day, you're playing a 30-card deck in a best of 1 against a random opponent you will most likely never see again. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think needs to change. And of course, Ben Brode believes that that's only just one of many things that no one can agree on. But yeah, so he went on in his thing to say again and reiterate, hey, tournament mode means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But then he went on and he said what he thinks are 2 obvious tournament mode implementations that they have considered recently, and that right there, considered recently, is why I think this I don't know what would you say, proclamation, this comment, this kind of write up by Ben Brode here is different than anything we've seen before, because it makes it sound like they're actually considering building something, which in the past we've just been told no, they're not working on anything. They can't figure out what everyone
that's the big
wants.
difference, right? Is we've been told we're not working on it. Now, he's literally coming out and saying, yo, we're thinking about these options.
But they're still not like working on anything. They're chatting about it, and we know they've been chatting to the community about tournament mode for years.
Well, chatting is different than like we're considering these. Like he literally said implementations. Like I've not heard these words from them before.
No,
like, we have to say that the tone is different. The tone before was it's a nice idea, but we're not working on that right now because we have other things on our plate. And this tone is much different. This tone is, you know, we think that it's valuable. We think that it's worth it. We're just, right now, we don't know which is the right way to implement it and which is the right answer. And I think that, honestly, the right answer isn't to only make one version of it. Like, so...
Well, I think so. So my problem is that basically what I want out of a tournament mode as a tournament organizer is the ability to do exactly what he said for like the first of the 2 obvious tournament mode implementations, which is put a bunch of players in a bracket. Just let me put a bracket in the client. Like that's what I want. And he's basically like, no, that's okay for in person, but we don't want to do that from home sort of thing. We don't want people to set aside their whole days and blah, 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 blah. If people want to play in a tournament, they want that experience. They want to set aside their days and go in there and say, no, I'm playing in a Hearthstone tournament. That's why things like Battlefy are so successful. It's because people are using them to organize tournaments. There are players who want to set aside days, even if they're out in round 1, to play in tournaments. So just throwing that idea aside makes me so sad.
I don't think he threw it aside, though. No, I think he said these are the problems with it. He didn't say, like, we're never doing it. He just said, like, these are the issues with putting it into the client.
Well, he said,
I don't see the part where he says, we're not going to do this one.
He said, I think number 1 is only really okay for in-person events.
Yeah.
So...
But that doesn't necessarily
mean...
we're
not going to put that in.
that doesn't necessarily mean that. He's just saying, like, this is where I think it's like, really okay. Like, this is where it's the best. Is it the best to sit in our client, necessarily? What's the percentage of our user base that actually uses it? And yeah, Battlefy is doing fine. but we're talking 70 million people, and how many players are actually like playing open cups all the time? It's pretty much just like it's like the super tryhards and the professional players and things like that. And that's not a small number of people, but it's a small number of people in comparison to the giant pool of people that they have to serve, right? So,
well, and I think,
I think
the
that's
big question mark there becomes, if it was a tournament button you could click in a client, and if you knew that there were just going to be kind of open cups available to you at any time that were moderated through the Hearthstone client, how many more people would say, like, okay, I don't have to look and see what open cup fits my schedule. I can just sign up for one because I have Fridays off of work. So I'm just going to go click the tournament button and it'll give me like an ETA for tournament start or something like that. Like,
I mean, I would love that.
How many more people would actually be involved in the tournament scene if it wasn't, tied to HCT points and, like all these other things? If it was just in the client and available to them as a game mode, how many more people would play? And I think a lot more people would play.
A lot more. Absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, that's still, if I'm just playing devil's advocate right here, like that, if you're Blizzard and you have X amount of resources to spend and you say, this is the percentage of people playing tournaments, this is the percentage of people just playing the game, our resources are best used making the next expansion really dope and blah, 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 and doing like features that, improve just overall like gameplay and stuff like that. And then they have to look at it as like a value oriented decision, right? Like, how much value do we get out of building this out? The other thing too is you also put out of business a ton of people who are doing third party tournament stuff. Like, you just basically like kill all of that.
I mean, you're assuming Battlefy only does Hearthstone
No,
tournaments.
not Battlefy. I'm saying like Zotac and all the people who are like running just like the Hearthstone, like the people who are just running the Hearthstone Cups, right? Like, they're not necessarily like getting money for it, but there's people who this is what they do, right? You get people coming to your website and you sell advertising space and blah blah blah. So I mean, there's more going in than it's not like as simple as like, oh, it should be there. Like, there's stuff to consider. Right?
Yeah.
And if you're Blizzard, there's a monetary amount of money you have to put in to make it work. And then there might not be as much value on the other side. So it's just not, look, it's not, I'm just not saying it's a black and white issue. That's all I'm saying. I want it. Don't get me wrong. But, I get what they're saying here. And I think this is still more than we've gotten in the past. I'm not going to just thumb my nose at this announcement and say, this is the same thing you've always been saying. Like, this is definitely more measured, more considered, and it seems more positive in the light of tournaments are something that we want to see in this game at some point.
All right, moving on. His second point he mentioned was, if you're familiar with the development of Arena, it's basically a story of us trying to solve the problem from the first approach in an 8-player bracket. The result is a competitive asynchronous event. Heroic Brawl is essentially the version of tournaments that can be done asynchronously online, which I just say no, it's not a tournament, not even close.
Well, and that was kind of what he said a couple of times, was that Heroic Brawl and Arena are the tournament experience, and it's like, not really though.
They're really bad tournament experiences.
Like, that's really kind of that's reaching, I think.
It is, but it also is how it works a lot in these games. Like, if you do like a draft in Eternal or something like that, like you step in, you step out. It works really well for that type of thing, right? And Arena, like, I could draft my deck on my first coffee break of the morning, and then I could come back at lunch and play a couple games, and then so I think it's still a valuable game mode. It's just it doesn't fix it. It doesn't. What he's trying to say is like this somehow scratches the tournament itch, and that I disagree with completely. Like, it doesn't scratch that itch at all.
Well, and I think it's because like I can go in and play Heroic Tavern Brawl, and even if I get 12 wins, I can't say like I was the winner of Heroic Tavern Brawl. It's like, well, but if I play in a tournament, I could be like, yeah, I freaking won DreamHack. It was awesome. Like, that's a totally different outcome. That's a totally different experience.
Even not on a stage.
It does not scratch that itch at all.
even like not on a stage as big as DreamHack. When I do well at my local, Magic, release tournament weekend, like that, I brag about that with my friends. That's what we're talking about beers over the weekend. Like, it's
because it's an event. It's an experience. Like, you can say, of all the people who entered, I came out victorious. Whereas with Heroic Tavern Brawl, it's like, yeah, I'm just one of many who played this week and got 12 wins. And that's not as cool. You can't say like, I won the second heroic tavern brawl, because then, you know, there's so many other people. Well, I did the same thing. Like, here's my 12 win screenshot. Like, what up?
Yeah, but
And there's
at
no,
the same
like,
time,
there's no
though,
like winner.
yeah, but at the same time, if there was tournaments running all day, every day, that would have the same thing, though, right? Because you'd say, like, I
Possibly.
won the 1 o'clock tournament on Friday, and someone would be like, yeah, well, I won it on Saturday. What? Like, so I mean, you know, the few and far between nature of tournaments makes them feel more important. But I mean, like, you are right, definitely, like that. It doesn't have the same oomph as I was the top of all of the people who entered, because you literally had this many people enter. Sorry, and they can't see my hands. There you go. And then we went all the way down, and there was one guy, right? And then in like all the guys who enter arena, just because I got 12, I went like 12-2. Doesn't mean I was the one guy out of the pool that entered that day that went 12. You know what I mean? So you're right. And you know, like we said, doesn't scratch the same itch. These aren't the same things, and we shouldn't put them in the same pool, right? We shouldn't say like, we got this, so we don't need this. Like, that's not how this works.
Right.
And the other thing about the whole tournament itch, right, goes back to what we were saying a little bit earlier about how it's just always this like one game thing. Like, you don't ever have the same opponent more than once. So you don't have the ability to, you know, get information about your opponent, do deck picking, like all these other things that you do in tournaments, you don't do in Heroic Tavern Brawl. You get one deck, you get a set of, you know, however many opponents, depending on how far you make it through the system, and you don't ever have that same sort of feeling. So, yeah, I think it comes down to, again, just the best of one situation versus a best of 3 or best of 5, that, you know, it doesn't make it feel the same. Even if on the back end it still ends up sort of the same as if you were playing like a double elimination tournament or something, it's still... Yeah, no, it doesn't feel the same.
No, and I mean, for me, when it comes down to it, maybe we should go around the table to kind of put a bow on this. It's like, what is the one thing, you know, if we're talking about how difficult it is to figure out what tournament mode is to so many different players, I'm curious, what is the one thing from each of us that we think it's the line you draw in the sand, where it's like, if it doesn't have this, I don't consider it a tournament mode? Because for me, I don't care what it ends up being, whether it's a live bracket, whether it's asynchronous, more like, you know, arena or anything. The line in the sand that I am drawing is more than a best of one. That is the I think the single greatest failing in Hearthstone is that no matter what I play, it really doesn't feel that much different, because
well,
I'm playing
especially the
best
nature of the game with the kind of rock paper scissors of matchups and stuff. It feels like just playing that one game that doesn't really...
Oh, dude, you could... If you get me in a bar and get a beer in my hand, I'm going to start ranting for hours about this, because...
I'm with you.
I mean, what is really... Like, you think about what is the most... Like, when you see the complaints on places like Reddit or the forums, you know, most places, the thing you hear over and over again are people complaining about RNG. Why isn't there an outcry about the fact of the RNG of matchups? Because there are horrible matchups in this game, and every single game mode currently in it does absolutely nothing to combat it, and absolutely nothing to reward you if you have any knowledge of those matchups.
It's true. I mean, so the reward is incremental when you're talking about that. Like, when people, like, when the pros going for top 1, you know, and stuff like that, they're playing to the meta, so they're just trying to beat the 17% that are playing Pirate Warrior. They're like, okay, 17% are playing Pirate Warrior, but it's like, that's such a small number that it's like you're still kind of playing rock paper scissors.
Right.
So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I think for me, honestly, I think me and Josh would probably say the same thing. If you gave me nothing else, as long as you at least gave me tools to run my own tournament, then I'd be like, okay, Blizzard, you don't have to put in Friday at 1 o'clock. There's a tournament in the client. Just give me the ability to populate tournament stuff and set the tournament rules in the client. And that way we can just, you know, it's like, okay, this guy's in there. They don't have to add each other as friends. They don't have to do whatever. Like, they're just playing each other now.
We don't have to worry about screenshots for wins because the client records who won.
Yes.
Like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I'm totally on board, Dills. Just the ability. And I mean, it could even be like, I set up a tournament, Hearthstone pops out a code. Like, now we know they just implemented it with decks. You can just, you know, have a code on your clipboard and it'll fill a deck in for you. Why can't I just have a tournament code, and then anyone I give the tournament code to pops that into their client, and shabam, they're in Taco. That would be perfect.
I mean, that would be like the workaround for it. But I really do think it's like, we're running it on NA, log in, like I give you guys some 5-digit code that they click on their thing, on their client, and it says like the taco code is blah 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 blah. They click that, and then they're in taco, they register, they're in the bracket. When someone else's time to play, it just pops up a challenge, like you're playing a standard duel, just boom, and then they're playing their game. When they're done, the loser is recorded, the winner is recorded. They move.
You
to
don't
the
have
next
to
thing.
worry about decks or people.
And then I
changing
can go
things.
get a
You
cup of
register your
coffee.
Yes.
And I can come back later, and the tournament is almost done, and now let's cast some games, right?
Yeah.
That I think is the dream.
Well,
And
because then we wouldn't even have to worry about getting all of the people to friend the spectator account. Like we could just, click a little I button
game
in the
and spectate
bracket and spectate it. Yes.
Just give us that, and then whatever. We don't have to have the all day. I have to have a day available Saturday, because the people have the all day available Saturday for the thing that we're setting up, not you guys, right? So, yep, that's it for me. Like, I would go for it. Like, I would let the community still run the thing, and just have Blizzard just give us the tools to do it.
Yeah, and I think that basically everything that Dill's just said kind of bakes in Garrett's issue too, right? He wants more than a best of one. If we can make our own tournaments, we can make them best of 3s, best of 5s, best of 7, best of 72.
You can just browse like available tournaments, right? And be like, what looks good right now? And it's not like that Blizzard's putting them on, but then Blizzard could use the same tools if they wanted to run their qualifiers and run all their, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't see why this is not valuable to them, because we see issues. Games like start and then they stop, and then there's issues with the spectator and blah, 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 and all this. It's like, how are we not fixing this? Small indie game company? Like, what's going on here?
And we do, we use Battle5 for Taco, and it works really well, but it's also limited because it's not actually in the client, so there are a whole bunch of different things. There's player-reported scores that go wrong. There's, like I mentioned, decks that are played that shouldn't be. There's, somebody accidentally queues in with a deck that's banned, that if that was just in the client, it just wouldn't allow, and it would make it so much easier to run tournaments, and then people don't get disappointed, because it feels really bad when you say, like, oh, my opponent queued in with the deck that I banned, what happens? And you have to make the call and say, well, okay, that's a loss for them, because
that deck could have been grayed out.
Yeah, exactly. But if it was just grayed out, all of these things would improve the experience of both the administrator and of the player. And I think that that's really important, is, the tournament experience should be as smooth as possible for both sides of the coin, the administrator and the player. And that's going to make everybody happier. So let's just make everybody happy, Blizzard.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm in.
I'm just trying to set myself up with a higher chance of being happier sooner than you two. So I'm going to go with, I just need a best of 3. I don't care if it's asynchronous. Thank you. So, no, those are all really good points. And if anyone's listening, like, this sounds very specific to your needs, but at the same time, if you gave these tools to everyone, I think there'd be more people running tournaments, more people having a good experience at tournaments. So,
more people trying them out. It's really intimidating right now to go over to some website and just click it and say, okay, I want to play, and then you don't know any of the names, and you don't know how the website works, and then you're back in Hearthstone. You're like, what do I do now? And it's like, oh, I got to go to Discord to talk to the person. It's like all these 5 different places you have to go to play and to run a damn tournament. It's stupid. It's like just it could all be in one place.
Yeah, I don't do it because I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather just,
it's too much.
I'd rather get in my car, drive to my local shop, and play some Magic, because that's a better experience. So.
Or to log on and play like Hearthstone for a while. Then when I'm like, okay, I need a different competitive experience, I play a different game. Like, I would play even more Hearthstone if they had this.
Yep, absolutely. Which
that should be Blizzard's goal, right? Is having more people play more Hearthstone.
Yeah. Blizzard, I'm telling you, I want to spend even more time in your game.
I do.
How? There's your unifying thread, is that no matter what you do, everyone's asking just for something so they can spend even more time in Hearthstone.
And to be 100% completely honest, if they didn't want to sink time into this because it wasn't going to make them money, as a tournament organizer, if I could do it in the client, I would pay, 15, 25, like I would pay a fee to access their in-client stuff. Like, it would make my life as an organizer so much easier that I think that they could even monetize this and it would still get used. So I don't even think that monetization is a problem here. Like I would pay for the use of tools.
People would
built into the
complain about
client.
that though. I mean,
I know
would
people
too,
would complain.
but
I know people would complain, but I'm just saying that, you
It
know,
is worth
tournament.
money.
It's definitely worth something. So
People are. I got news for you, Dills.
I
People
just
are going to
wanted to
complain no
say
matter
it.
what
I know
happens.
I'm going to take flack for it, but it could be monetized.
It's it's going to happen anyway. People are going to complain no matter what. I'm sure when tournament mode actually ends up getting in the game, I'm sure we'll have something to complain about it, no matter what it happens. There's always something. There's always a way to do it better. And at the end of the day,
and there's always the worry that people will set up fraudulent tournaments in the Blizzard client or whatever, right? Like someone will say, "Oh, we have the $40 BattleNet card to give away if you win the tournament," and then they won't pay out or whatever.
But
and I could see that, but that's already happening. I'm just gonna say, like, it doesn't matter if it's in the client or outside the client. Like, basically, the community ends up discovering like who's like
a legit
organizer, and who's like a scam
But even
artist.
then, if it's in the client, that's another thing that Blizzard could control. You could say, like, you have to have the prize money in your Battle.net account before you can set up a tournament. Okay, yes, we have verified. Here's your little green check mark. They have the funds and will be paid out.
Yeah, like you have to actually like purchase them, right?
Yeah,
before
exactly.
you like open the tournament for qualifying.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. All of that stuff is in the Blizzard universe, so they would be able to control all of that. So then you wouldn't have tournaments that don't have the funds available for their prizes.
Less bad blood around the tournament scene. That's great.
I know we're about to move on to strategy and end this, but you guys just opened a huge can of worms. If they're gonna, we didn't even mention in-game like customizable tournament prizes, and the only way I think that could possibly work is if it was done with Battle.net Balance and there was a way to load it up ahead of time. That's the only possible way. I would see it probably just not straight up not happening. Because issues and customer service.
If it doesn't
complaints.
happen though, then what happens is people do like their own prizes outside of the client.
Well, and
right?
what I was
say,
gonna
like,
say,
I'll PayPal you your winnings afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that was my follow up. Is even if they do offer it to where you can load up Battle.net points, there's really nothing stopping anyone from going and doing exactly that. Even if they wanted to do something other than cash, they could. We're giving away a headset, we're giving away a keyboard, we're giving away a monitor, and that's going to cause all kinds of issues. If anyone does disconnect or something, they blame Blizzard. There's going to be customer complaints. Yes, they can address it in their EULA and make it so that Blizzard's not responsible for whatever random BS thing that made you angry on the internet. But being the devil's advocate, as you've been playing all episode, Dills, that's something I would be very concerned about if I was Team 5.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's definitely something that will slow things down at some point. Is if we do this, suddenly we are now getting involved in all the shady backroom dealings that people are doing with these third-party websites and stuff. Fact is, though, your game's already involved, so you're already involved to a certain extent. The more control you have over it, probably the better. Like if you could ban accounts that set up the tournament but then turned out to be fraudulent, that would be a good thing, right? Because they'd have to have a Battle.net account to do the damn thing in the first place. So,
absolutely.
I don't know. In all, like, button on the whole conversation, the more control Blizzard has over all of this, the better it is for everybody, because they are the people that I think we could trust more than the random third-party website I go to. And some of them are great. Some of them are terrible. You figure that out over a long process of playing the bad ones and the good ones.
Yeah.
And if there was a Blizzard stamped approval, like we know these people are legit, the whole thing would feel a lot better.
Absolutely. Really, I just wanted to try. Just put something out there. I'd be okay if it's not any good, because right now there's just nothing being added, and I just want to see something.
You miss every shot you don't take. So take a shot.
Take a shot. Take a stab at tournament mode. I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in you. So, anyway, before we move on and talk about Pyros Secret Mage, let's thank our patrons supporting us at patreon.com/TAC. We have a lot of bosses, but they're awesome bosses. They're very nice bosses. They let us leave early on Fridays. They give us the holidays off, and for the most part, they don't get on us for what we're wearing. Although some of you have opinions about my hair and also when I wear hats. But whatever the case is, if you want to become an Angry Chicken Boss, if you like the show, if you want to support it, patreon.com/TAC is the best place to do so. All three of us here podcast full-time. It's what we do for a living, and the various Patreons for the different shows that we do, this one included, that's our paycheck. It helps us pay rent, helps us buy cards, helps us keep doing this at the quality that we're doing it. Pay no mind to the whatever that weird thing that happened at the very beginning of the show did. I promise it'd be a lot worse if you didn't give us your money. So give us your money. I'm threatening you now. On this episode, we wanted to thank Rendon M, Greg C, Chris Q, Big Daddy K. I'm not sure that's what your mama named you, and Joseph S. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. Very much appreciate it. And now let's rise from the ashes while telling secrets. I don't know, that didn't sound that good. Whatever the case is, it's time to talk Pyro's Secret Mage.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
Okay. I don't want to make more mage players in the universe right now, but Dills wanted to talk about Secret Mage.
It's not because I want to make more mage players. It's because this is a deck that people are going to be running into quite a bit.
I know.
You're going to be seeing this. It's becoming very popular, and there's a reason for that. It's pretty good.
Unless it's in my hands, then it's awful terabad. So.
Okay. So Pyro Secret Mage isn't nothing new necessarily. As soon as this expansion hit, and we got Arcanologist and Primordial Glyph and stuff like that, I think we started to see a lot more people mess around with the Secret Mage archetype. In fact, Jocelyn was one that immediately was jumping on that bandwagon, and I think your version was pretty good. And what we've seen now is a refinement of people who took essentially what you were doing, and then have gone, okay, what cards are not working as well? What cards are really working? What cards do we wish we had? And we've kind of come towards this a little bit, and this is the newest hotness right now in the Secret Mage world as far as standard is concerned. So you'll notice a few things about it that are kind of weird. One is Pyros. What the hell is Pyros doing in a Secret Mage?
My version of this deck with Pyros in it is literally called Pyros? WTF!
He has he has no synergy with secrets. He doesn't do anything secret related.
Yep.
There's nothing in the deck that has anything to do with elementals. So what in the world is he doing in this deck? And the fact of the matter is that he's in this deck because one problem with the deck, the rest of the deck, which all synergizes very well with each other. One problem with the rest of the deck is that sometimes you just run out of gas and you just stop having stuff to do. Right? You play you have so many cards here that are designed to dump your hand out as fast as possible, that once your hand is dumped, then if that doesn't work, if they AoE your board or do something, you just lose the game. So Pyros is in there as a little bit of a stopgap between that. You can play him on 2. You can hold him for a little bit later, whatever. Play him on turn 4 with another card, things like that. And then it just gives you the ability to, at some point, have a 6-drop and a 10-drop and, something that they have to deal with to try to close the game out. So it's really, really effective for winning value-oriented matchups where the game doesn't quite go exactly how you want it to. This is your insurance policy in games like that. So it works really well for that and doesn't really give up a lot. You're not really missing a lot to put Pyros in. So he's great for that. And then the other card that kind of is the bet hedger of the deck is the Yogg Saron. Yogg Saron back in the deck.
Yogg's
what do you
back.
know? Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, Garrett's not happy about that. But the Yogg is pretty fun in this deck because the only time you ever really play him is when everything's been exhausted. All resources are gone. And you're well, he's at 5.
I got this.
And
I got this, Dills. Can I take this?
Sure.
The only time you play Yogg is when you should have lost the game.
Well, but Yogg could have been a Pyroblast in a lot of situations, and you would have won the game if he was a Pyroblast, right? So it's a card that can do many things for you. It's not just going to be the Pyroblast, where Pyroblast will only ever be a Pyroblast. This could also sometimes be hey, well, I need to draw some cards too. I'm way behind on the board. It's it's your catch-all, and it's still a valuable tool, even though I get it. It's Yogg, and we all have our problems with Yogg. But I've been having fun playing with this Yogg again. He's just I don't know. At this point, he's not good enough to complain about it anymore. Like he sometimes works amazingly and sometimes just fizzles out. And you're like, that's what I knew. I was putting that into my deck, right? Like I understood when I put him in, that was fine. So, sure, you don't like it, but I'm having fun with it, and it's actually a pretty decent card for this deck.
So, speaking of tools, you mentioned when we were talking about Mage earlier that Eater of Secrets can make its way into this deck just for the mirror matchup because there's so many mages on ladder. So, what do you take out to make room for an Eater of Secrets?
Probably a Babbling Book, I think. Babbling Book is great, but you don't need two of them necessarily. So I was always running a version without Babbling Book of running the single Cabal Lackey. So I still only had 3 1-drops. And I was doing fine with just 3 1-drops. You mulligan pretty heavily to look for Mana Worms, Frostbolt Arcanologist, and Primordial Glyphs. So it's like that's what you want. This deck did away with the Cabal Lackeys and put in the Sorcerer's Apprentice back in, which I think is really cool because the Lackey only works on secrets. If you notice, this is a secret mage that's only running 4 secrets. So,
I know, and it makes me so nervous because there's no ice block.
Well, yeah, but you can find... So, Ice Block is another card that you could definitely put in. Like, I would recommend, maybe if you don't have Pyros or something, you could throw in an Ice Block instead. Because what Ice Block does for you is allows you to activate Badi's Valets without having to play a secret that very same turn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, the other secrets, they get popped.
They get popped right away, yeah.
Next turn. Yeah, they don't last for a long time. That's the beauty of the Ice Block, is it stays up for an extended period of time. So, this deck isn't quite built around that functionality necessarily. In fact, Badi's Valet isn't even a card I keep at the beginning anymore.
No.
Badi's Valet is much better on turns 5, 6, 7. It's like your mid to late game card, and sometimes it's extra burn. So this deck plays out a little bit differently, where it tries to get out to a fairly quick start, and then it really accelerates in the mid game, right? And at some point, you either decide that you're going to start to turn into a burn deck, or you decide, okay, I'm going to continue playing for board, and then you just get these cheap, Cabal Crystal Runners. And if you look at it, you're like, oh my god, only 4 secrets. You kind of have 6 secrets because you have double Arcanologist, right? So Arcanologist is like drawing a secret every single time. So it's, yes, there are only technically 4, but because Arcanologist is in the deck, drawing that is akin to drawing one of your secrets, right? You're going to get one automatically. So it's like this deck to me feels like the most refined version of this, where there's no extra bells and whistles. It's like these are the cards that we know work, and we're just going to go with these cards. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have two cards to give us a chance in matchups we cannot win. And that's I think, like, you've been actually seeing a lot more of that lately, I think, where I saw Firebat playing a deck, and it was basically it was Jade Druid
with the
and he had the Yogg in it, and he was like, Yogg is there just to be able to win the matchups where I cannot win the matchup, right? He's like, it gives me a chance in a matchup where I'm never going to win. And that is like, it's like it's emergency break glass, play Yogg. And sure, it sucks for the guy when he loses and you won because of Yogg, or you played Yogg, you spent 10 mana and it fizzled out. But it's really not there to like win, to be like to win every this card game helps me win all these matchups. Yeah. It's there to just be like, I have only one play left, and it's Yogg.
Yeah, it's a saving throw, right?
Yeah. So, and in that type of respect, Yogg is pretty fun in this deck. But you're mostly going to win the game by counterspelling something really important, keeping your dudes on the board, and then just like pounding their face in with Cabal Crystal Runners, Fireballs, and Firelands Portals. So.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. All of your burn spells basically are meant to go face, right?
I mean, they go face once you get to the certain point, right? But I use them liberally as board control, because the deck is really a board control deck. It's a board control deck where you suddenly flip the board, right? So in the past, like, the way you would suddenly flip the board was always something like I would flame strike you, right? Mm-hmm. And then kill all your stuff. But the problem with that was always like it cost 7 mana. What this deck could do is it can be like, okay, I play Kirator Mage and a counter spell and then a free 5/5, and I fireball your guy. And I did all that in one turn, and suddenly I have a 5/5, a 4/3, a counter spell's up, and I killed your big minion. So it's like not only did I kill your stuff, but I also developed on my side of the board, which is something you couldn't necessarily do with a flame strike, right? So it's a very
I think
like
I've just been playing this wrong, I think. And I can't even 100% say what exactly it is that I'm doing it wrong. I'm just wrong.
well, it's counterintuitive, like what you should really be doing sometimes. Sometimes like you want to get off to a quick start. And then sometimes you might be feeling like, okay, all this burn has to go face. But really, if you could protect your minions for a couple more turns, you're going to get more damage out of them, right, than you would out of your single fireball or your single frostbolt or whatever. So, but yeah, it's definitely a deck that takes a little getting used to. I played a lot of this on Wild Ladder last season, and this version felt very different than that Wild version did. The Wild version felt like it had so much more gas because you had Duplicate. I had like a Lotheb and a Dr. Boom in there. Like I had so many more turns where it was just like, all right, I just did a powerful thing that I know is powerful. This deck, you really have to find and you have to figure out a way to set up the situation where you just suddenly go crazy. It's like burst out of nowhere, but the burst isn't like I burst your face with a bunch of spells. It's like I burst a 5/5 and a 4/3 and a secret and a thing, and like all of a sudden I have the board and I win. Right.
Yeah. I don't have Pyros, and I never recrafted Yogg after his nerf because I'm taking a stand. So I've been playing Secret Mage on Wild, and I'm having an absolute blast with what is now used to be Rogue. Now it's Mage, my least played class.
So if you don't have those two cards, by the way, which I'm sure a lot of people watching the show or listening to the show are like, I don't have Pyros and I don't have Yogg, because they are the only two legendaries in the deck. You could throw in an Ice Block, which will give you one more secret and also give you the ability to kind of lengthen the game out a little bit, and then you could also throw in like any kind of strong minion that just kind of gives you. Maybe? Alexstrasza would not be terrible, just to be able to put your opponent low. But most of the time, Alexstrasza is a little bit wasted in this deck because you do a lot of early minion damage, right?
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of it works kind of like an Ice Block in that it's a bit of a heal, right? I was thinking defensively.
Oh, yeah, but if you're going to do that, you probably don't want a 9-mana defensive card. That would just be like second Ice Block or something would probably be better in that case. But like things like I see some decks on Hearthstone Replay, hsreplay.net, that are running like a Faceless Summoner, which is just like another mid-range kind of minion you can pop down. So anything like that would probably be okay as well.
I think the difficult thing, like the difficult trick to kind of fill if you don't have Pyros, because you're saying Pyros is that it just kind of it gives you a little more gas on those awkward turns. And over in Wild, Duplicate kind of does that, right? Because it's adding minions back into your hand when you might be running out of gas. So yeah, there's no. I don't think there's any way to get a budget version of what Pyros and what Duplicate does, and you can't use Duplicate standard.
Not what those cards exactly do. You know, another card that could work. You could do like Medivh, might be okay because the Firelands portals and the fireballs are pretty good. You could throw in like a Meteor. And Meteor might give you some ability to control the board a little bit more. Meteor is like just so insane for controlling the board. Also throw in Cabal Lackeys back in. One of those would be pretty good. I don't like double Cabal Lackey, but one is actually pretty good because sometimes on turn one you can do things like play the Cabal Lackey or like Mana Worm, coin, Cabal Lackey, secret, and then you played like a 3/3, a 2/1, and you put up a counter spell and they can't remove your minions, right? So it's like just such an insane start.
There's also
so you can definitely do that too.
There's also a lot of turns where like I have Medivh's Valet in hand, I have a secret in hand, but I don't have enough mana to do both. But with Lackey, I do.
Yeah.
Or
Lackey suddenly smooths that whole thing out. Yeah.
Or if you run an Ethereal Arcanist. Is it Arcanist or Arcanist? Arcanist.
Oh, yeah, you could also put that guy back in, too. Yeah. He's all right. And then Hachikuma
I had him.
Tony also works, but I don't know if I don't like Tony as much in this deck because the only thing that's really like the cheap spell is the Primordial Glyph stuff. So you don't really often have the ability to make a whole bunch of fireballs, but he can be good.
Yeah,
I like Archaic Rapture's suggestion of putting the mare in.
There you go.
It all comes back. Is that going to be the new meme for me?
Yes.
If everyone is Crackle gone, or is it now going to be Mayor Noggin
Now
Fogger?
it's Noggin Fogger.
Is it just going to be whatever card makes me the angriest?
Anyway, so
if it's just going to be the card that makes me the angriest, it should just be Yogg because he actually gets put in decks. But
yeah, Yogg actually does see some play.
Yeah,
but, yeah. There's plenty of options around. I mean, just the Pyros and Yogg thing is just the cards that people have decided are the strongest fit for this type of deck that aren't the secret like the exact like secret synergy cards. So.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm really having fun with this, and I have not found a mage that's ever really grabbed my attention before, and I'm having an absolute blast playing Secret Mage. Granted, I'm not playing this exact deck. I'm playing a wild version, but I can't say enough good things about it. Except I'm sick of seeing other mages. But
Sure.
such is life, man. I'm enjoying it. Other people are enjoying it. Have fun. So
now, I will say for the opposite side, playing around this deck, the key I think is just sequencing your plays to play around the secrets properly. If you can do that right. Because what I see a lot of people do is just dive headfirst right into my secret. And I'm just like, man, you lost the game. Play cheap spells when you see it before you play your expensive spells. Play small minions when you see the secrets. Most of the time these days you're seeing counterspell and you're seeing... yeah, and also pay attention to how much they paid for that secret. Did they pay 3 or did they pay 1? Because if they paid 1, it came from a primordial glyph and you don't know what the hell it is. So you got to play around everything.
Yeah, I find for me, my problem playing against this deck is, at least with Ungoro, it seems like all of my cards do something really good. So I don't have necessarily a spell that I'm willing to be counterspelled or, like a minion that I'm willing to be copied. And that's been my big problem playing against this deck is I'm just like, man, I either give them my super awesome thing in my hand or I don't do anything this turn, and it's super frustrating.
All you can do there in that situation is just give them the least valuable of the options.
Yeah.
Right? Like sure, they're all valuable, but one has to be slightly less than the other, right? And if you could figure out what that one is, then you just go for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely like one of the tough things about playing against this deck is sometimes there's just no good option. You're like, I know exactly what that secret is, and I cannot allow him to copy any of these things. But can I afford to take an entire turn off? Probably not. So
well, because then it's still up next turn, right? Like it's not like it goes away.
Yeah, unless
you're just hoping you draw into something crappy, I guess.
Yeah. Which then that also feels bad, right? And that's why I find I'm actually think I'm gonna put Eater of Secrets into a lot of my stuff because it's just so frustrating all the time. And Paladin Secrets and Hunter Secrets never make me feel this way. Mage is just so strong.
Maybe it's just because I'm playing a while, but I've had a couple instances this week where I was staring at a Paladin Secret being like, if it is this one secret, I am so boned, and it's probably, it's that secret, I'm boned. But Hunter Secret, we're also not seeing a lot of Hunters right now, so it's really kind of just hard to comment on that. But yeah.
But I mean, like I even with Hunter Secret, it's like, okay, I know that it's probably Explosive Trap or Freezing Trap, and those things happen, and I'm like, okay, but it didn't wreck my day.
Yeah, you know how to play against it, and those are the two that are probably going to affect your board the most. So the other ones are kind of just whatever. I'm just going to play, and if a cat trick pops out, who cares? I'll just move on. There's something. I don't think I've felt as comfortable as I feel in Hearthstone as I do when I have a counter spell up. Like it's just the most comfortable feeling in the world because so often, and again, don't play a lot of Mage. That's why I'm having this discussion about one of the oldest cards in the game. Is playing since Ungaro. A lot of times I'm just sitting there going, God, I just hope they don't have this one card. It's like a Consecrator. God, I hope they don't have Equality. Or God, I hope they don't have a Fireball. And counterspell, you just don't have that conversation with your own brain anymore. It's out the door, and you get to just sit back, relax, and it's like, well, whatever the first thing they try to do is, it's not happening. So
that's the beauty of Wild right now is you could put in the double counterspell and you could put in the Loatheb. So it's almost like you have 3 counterspells.
Yep.
It's insane.
What are you talking about, dude? I have 3 Loathebs. It's called Duplicate, and it's gross.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, you can also do that, too.
Gross. Oh, man.
I love it. Absolutely love it. That's my favorite thing to do in a Mage Mirror on Wild is I'm going to do everything I can to get Duplicate to hit on my Loatheb. So.
Hell yeah. But I mean, there's so many good cards to hit like that. I mean, if you hit the Kirator Mages, if you hit the Arcanologists, if you hit the Mediz Valet, Mediz Valet is one of my favorites. You hit the Mediz Valet, and then you're like, what up? I just have so much burn now.
I've found lethal that way so many times.
Yeah. There's actually another deck Firebat was messing with where it was whatchamacallit? What's the Echo of Medivh? So he's playing Echo of Medivh, duplicates, and Emperor Thorsons and stuff in the secret deck, and then basically just trying to make tons of Medivh valets, and then play with Bran.
And Bran,
and
yeah.
And then with Bran, you deal. They each are fireballs, 2-mana fireballs. So just OTK people.
Seems
with those.
good.
Seems very good.
Somewhere too, if Ben Brode is ever listening to this, which he probably turned it off by now because I'm sure it's extremely weird to listen to three knuckleheads pick each word apart that you've said on Reddit. But if he's still listening, I have not forgotten, Ben Brode. I remember when you came on many, many years ago and challenged how much I crapped on Duplicate when it was revealed. So I believe now.
It's a good card, turns out. Yeah.
All right, secrets out. Get out there and play this deck, everyone. Let's take some emails and wrap this show up.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh,
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Brenton J. writes in and says, Heroes of the Storm 2.0 seems to be a huge success. I enjoyed the game before, but now I'm really loving it. The loot boxes seem quite generous, the UI has improved, and things seem so much more fun and intuitive. On the other hand, Hearthstone seems quite stingy to me, as it's from a completely different... a completely different company. I understand the CCG mentality that collecting the cards is part of the fun. I remember people complained when the Heart of the Swarm expansion for StarCraft 2 was going to be $40. Oh my god, you're right. People actually did complain about that.
Yep.
However, if someone told me a few years ago that I would pay $50 for a card game expansion and not even get a good chunk of the expansion, I don't know if I would have given Hearthstone a glance. As a player since beta, I'm finding it harder to find reasons to continue playing as this game just asks too much of my wallet. Do you think Hearthstone could benefit from something similar to Heroes of the Storm 2.0? If so, what would you like to see in a Hearthstone 2.0? These are two very unrelated, I think, kind of comments here. One of a Hearthstone 2.0.
The overall is that like it costs a lot in Hearthstone. It seems like the game doesn't reward you too much, and the comparison he's making is to Heroes of the Storm 2.0, which seems like it rewards you quite a lot. So could Hearthstone benefit from a kind of upgraded reward system in the style of Heroes of the Storm 2.0?
Sure. Yes, of course. More free things are always good. I'm not going to argue against that. What am I, insane? I mean, this conversation has been happening a while now. We haven't mentioned it much on this show since kind of the announcement of Ungoro, where the conversation was being had a lot, and I think all three of us were pretty winded about the whole conversation about the price of Hearthstone. But it's coming back around again, and I think for some people it never really left. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've definitely softened on it. I mean, my mantra has always been it is both a video game and CCG, and I think they do a fairly good job meeting in the middle on that, because it is not as expensive as Magic. It is more expensive than a traditional boxed video game.
So I think that basically the thing that Heroes added that people seem to love is loot boxes. Mm-hmm. So if you removed the like level 60 requirement from or level 60 cap on your Hearthstone heroes and rewarded a loot box that could contain, you know, single cards and 5 dust and 10 gold or something like that, would loot boxes for leveling up your heroes be a thing that you think would work?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it would work. It would definitely work for the player base. I guess the question is, like, would it?
Do you think it would hurt? Yeah,
Hearthstone's
Blizzard. Yeah.
Bottom line, I probably not. Honestly.
Well, because the thing with
I am a
Heroes,
proponent of like, give us a little bit more and we'll spend more money. Like it sounds like to me like this guy is saying it's all too much, and I bet if it was, like you're kind of at the risk of losing this guy completely, right?
yes.
Where you're going to lose all of his money forever more. He's never going to spend any more money. But if he could get closer for free, then he would continue to spend money year after year after year, right? So I think, I've always been like, I like that as a business model. Like, give me just enough to get me close, and then allow me to get the last little bit. And you'll still keep the whales who just want all of the stuff right away. Mm-hmm. Those people aren't going anywhere, I don't think. So yeah, I think it's a fine idea. What's in those loot boxes? I have no idea. I mean, I guess just specific
Well, and
cards, dust, and maybe a pack.
Little gold and stuff. But I think that the reason why Heroes was able to do this is because they diluted their rewards pool, right? They put in things like voice lines for characters, tags, banners, like, you know, it's not just heroes and skins. So I'm wondering if there's maybe this is where some of, like, I don't want to see Hearthstone do this because I hate diluted reward pools because I feel like opening loot boxes then just feels bad. But is there room for some sort of something in Hearthstone that,
new emotes and stuff like that?
Yeah, like emotes or skins for things, maybe card backs, or I don't know. Is there room
put
for
in
that?
the spray paint stuff, like you could spray the map, you know, whatever, with a little
tag the board.
Yeah, like, I mean,
I need a tag.
You can put all that
says,
stuff
like,
in, it'd be fine.
Place minions properly, like a sticky note on the board to remind me.
Sure.
Argus goes in the middle.
Put all this stuff in. I don't know.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think custom emotes is a big thing. I mean, we already have heroes, which are being added to the game at a questionably
really
slow rate,
slow pace. Yeah,
everything in Hearthstone in regards to speed boggles my mind. I don't get it. It's like heroes. Why don't we have 40 heroes that I can go and just waste money on? Does anyone have a good answer for that?
The only answer is just it's the fact that it's mobile and on PC and on Unity and not on whatever engine. Like, it's not on StarCraft's engine.
Right.
That's got to be the. It's got to just be an engineering issue. Like, it can't be that they can't come up with ideas fast enough. Because this is Blizzard we're talking about.
I was going to say, I have a bazillion lore ideas for heroes that you could put in Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So this is partially on my mind, I think, because the arena reward discussion from last week, where they're like, yeah, we should probably make it so you get some freaking golden cards in your arena rewards. That sounds like a good idea. What if instead of adding like a loot chest, because I get why Overwatch and why Heroes do it, they have enough stuff that it warrants having something like that. Mm-hmm. This is already a card game where you already have a thing that you open that has randomized things inside. It's called a card pack because it's a card game. So why not? I think just give more packs away. Find reasons. I don't invent reasons to just give more card packs away, whether it's hitting a level or what have you. But maybe instead of adding a whole new thing to open, maybe find a way to modify the card packs. Like, dole out card packs from whatever expansions are currently in rotation, but would it be possible to get, besides just a standard card pack, which is guaranteed to have one rare, maybe an epic card pack that's guaranteed to have one epic, a legendary card pack, which would be extremely rare, that's guaranteed to have one legendary, and maybe a golden card pack that's guaranteed to have at least one gold, or maybe a golden variant of all of those?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you could, like, apply those to existing packs.
Yeah. And you start dishing those out as rewards. They're not even something you can buy. They're just rewards you get.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely do that. There's many different paths they could go down, but I think that in general, the gist of the email and the biggest, like, takeaway is really just, if you could give away a little more stuff, and if you can let people kind of point and aim at where they want to go, I think you'll see people buying a lot more of these random packs, right? Because I think the biggest complaint we saw was just that I bought 50 packs and just by the luck of the draw, got nothing good. So if you could say, and like, okay, so I'll bring in another card game as an example. When you buy a pack in Eternal, you get the cards, and then you always get a little dust as well. And so that dust is the non-randomized thing, which is, like, feels okay because it feels like I'm moving towards, like, no matter what, every pack I got, I'm moving towards, like, some card I know I want. And I think that's the problem, is, like, people see a card specifically, they want it, and then they don't open it, and then they don't have enough dust to craft it, and they're like, well, screw this. And then, you know, I'm out. So just allow people to kind of aim their collections towards specific things. However you do that, the more of that there is in the game, like, the better everyone will feel about all the stuff that they buy.
Add a reputation grind from World of Warcraft. You get to declare allegiance to, like, Yogg-Saron, and every win you get counts towards crafting a Yogg-Saron.
Sure. Yeah. Like, after a certain amount of leveling up, you could pick a legendary card and just say, boom, I have it now. Mm-hmm. And, like, that kind of stuff would be, I think, would be great. I really do.
There you go. That's a cosmetic thing they could give away, is a tabard. What card are you working on? Here's your tabard. You
It could be like the little
all your
Pokemon
Hearthstone
Go.
games. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Pokemon Go, I put like my
Yeah, your
I
little
put my
companion
Eevee
games?
next to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm getting Eevee candies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Done. I'm into
There
it.
you go.
I'm into it. But yeah, I think all of this is good stuff. There's definitely room for like more, I think, kind of nonsensical fun things in Hearthstone, but I think there's also room to just give away more free packs and dish out more cards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And again, like I want to make sure people don't think that like we just think like, yeah, just give us all the stuff. Like I really think this benefits Blizzard on the other end as well. Like I think that it's like that little bit gets you a lot more, you know. This works with so many things. If I go to the bar and it's happy hour, do I end up spending less money? Oh, hell no. I'm spending way more money because I'm like, man, these beers are so cheap. Let's have 8 of them. But it's like I think it's a healthy business model. Not that the happy hour is healthy for me, business model, but the bar is making more money.
it's not healthy for your liver.
No.
But yeah, absolutely. Anyway, next email, Dills.
Oh crap! Hold on. I was looking at all sorts of different things. Okay, here we go. Drew says, "Dear disgruntled dinosaur descendants." Wow, alliteration. I like it. In the most recent episode, you talked about arena rewards and some ways they could be improved. Thinking about this, it occurs to me that Blizzard might not have much incentive to improve arena rewards because they don't make nearly as much money from arena as they do from pack sales. But what if they adjusted the price of arena to offset the cost of a better reward structure? That is, do you think the community would tolerate improved rewards at the cost of a higher entrance fee? For example, what if we were guaranteed that any cards we got at the end of an arena run were golden, but now each run costs 200 or 250 gold? I, for one, wouldn't mind paying a bit extra for some more exciting rewards, but I'm interested to hear what y'all think. Thanks for reading and everything you do.
Treat it like a wager. Give me options. I think I'm going to do...
I love the
I
idea
like
of being able to pay
idea.
more for a higher reward tier, right? Like you could have... And I've heard this from lots of people, and we talked about it. Heroic Tavern Brawl, if you could do the 1,000 gold version or the 500 gold version or the 200 gold version, and then just make the rewards indicative of how much you put in, that would be fantastic. And I think you definitely do that with Arena. And it would be cool, too, because you could have different tiers of Arena where I feel like I'm really good. So let me play against the other people who are willing to put 500 gold in. Let's do this. That would also be fun, I think. So I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah, I like the idea of what Garrett mentioned with kind of like the tiered like gambling sort of a thing, like just playing with people who are putting up the same and have the same expectations for rewards and stuff, because I can see myself playing in an arena at like 100 or 200 gold, but I probably wouldn't go much higher than that because I don't want to risk that much gold because I don't have great arena skills. But I would still want to kind of play and get the feeling that I'm being rewarded for what I'm putting in. So I think that I would be totally open to higher entrance fees. I think that's a great idea.
Like
And
at
as I
150, you're
slowly-
guaranteed 1 pack, and at like
Yeah.
300, you're always guaranteed 2 packs. You know what I mean? It's like just start doubling the rewards a little bit. And the other cool thing is it could open up because I know like a Dwakta and Merps are swimming in gold because all they do is play arena and they're infinite and they don't buy packs and they don't give a crap about packs. And so, or like Hafu, her like main account has just insane amounts of gold. And there's all these players who are infinite arena players who just play arena, and at this point they don't give a crap about the gold, they don't give a crap about the packs, they don't care about any of that stuff. So let them just like gamble all that gold. Like they're now, am I infinite at 500 gold per arena run? Like that's their next challenge to themselves, right? Is can I stay infinite when it's costing me this much gold to go in? And I'm playing against other players who are spending that much gold to go in. And then that also now opens up the floor a little bit for Jocelyn to be like, I want to dip my toes in arena.
Yeah,
but
I don't
every
have
time
to
I'm
play
in there,
against Hafu.
Hafu and Merps and the Dwakta are in the same damn pool as me. Like, what the hell is that all about, right? So, I think it has benefits in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that idea a lot. As a non-arena player, I like that. I would do that.
Yeah. And
Right
as
on.
a streamer, I think people would want to watch me play at the tier levels that they don't want to play at, and I'd be down. Like, let's do
Sure.
this. It's like with the Hero Tavern Brawl. People want to watch you do it because they don't want to do it, and they're like, "All right, I'll tune into this guy doing it. Thanks for like allowing me to live vicariously through you." So
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody gets something.
I like it.
I like it.
Final email, Joss.
This one comes to us from Ganray, I think. Says, hey, Ganray.
Yeah.
It says, hey, Cluckers, I have some thoughts on what to expect now that the annual rotation of cards into Wild is set and is a consideration for all expansions moving forward. The first expansion each year will have the most impactful cards as they'll be around for a full 2 years in Standard. Thusly, the cards will be the main focus and will trend towards Standard usage, not a lot of extra content or focus on Wild by Blizzard. The cards from the second expansion will be around for a shorter lifetime in Standard, and Blizzard will pepper in more story and solo content to compensate for the cards' shorter Standard life. I would expect more cards to possibly be geared towards Wild and even Arena. Maybe we can look for the return of old packs or something along those lines as well. The last set each year, having the shortest Standard life cycle, will have the most extra story solo content and even more of an eye towards Wild and Arena. This is when I would expect big changes like adding game modes. I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. Keep up the great work on the podcast. It makes me smile. So we already know that we're going to get single player solo story stuff in every expansion going forward. I feel like, I don't know why, but a lot of people seem to have missed that kind of little piece of information that they are, even though they got rid of adventures, still going to give us solo content going forward with expansions. They just didn't do it with Un'Goro this year because it was a decision that was made kind of later on as a response to the community. So we are still going to see story and solo content going forward from expansions. But I kind of thought that this was an interesting email just because each expansion is going to be around for, like shorter times as the years go on, or as the year goes on. So I like the idea, and I mean, we've seen it with Un'Goro. I think we can kind of say we saw it with the Old Gods last year, that the first expansion did seem to be the super big impactful one, and the cards that kind of stuck around for the most time. So I can definitely see that trend. What do you guys think about kind of the way the card releases are focused? Like, did you see the first expansion being really impactful and the other ones kind of not so much, and maybe trending towards Arena and Wild?
I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just where the chips fell.
Yeah.
And I think it's always going to feel that way because of the rotation as well. I think the beginning is going to feel more impactful because we're losing more cards than we're gaining.
That is true. That is true. But then I'm thinking more along the lines too of, well, I mean, like we were even talking about it today. Yogg. People are still playing Yogg, and that came out of Old Gods. Like I feel like we're seeing, although Jades were Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, but I feel like there's more Old Gods cards that have kind of stood the test of time and stood up against more expansion releases as opposed to some of the stuff out of Karazhan and then Mean Streets. But I could be totally wrong. I
mean, this will be the last time we have an adventure in the rotation, though, right? So true, forevermore, it's always going to be 3 releases of around 100 plus, 130 cards or whatever. So this is the last time we have that one night in Karazhan, only 45 cards, where all we're really seeing is like the Medivh and a couple other random things here and there. So it'll at some point it'll kind of feel like it evens out, I think. But it does make sense to me to ramp up other releases as the year goes on. That I think is an idea I can get behind, because he is right. Like, those cards are essentially like, I wouldn't say less important, but they do have a shorter life cycle. Although that life cycle is still going to feel plenty long. It's going to be a year and 4 months.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like, oh, they're just here and gone. But having releases of different stuff and then kind of pushing like more of the a big card related stuff towards the end of the year, I'd be fine with that if that's the thing that they want to do. But I think honestly the way it's really going to always work is stuff's going to come out when it's ready.
Yeah, that's Blizzard's mantra. When it's ready, when it's done, when it's finished.
Yeah.
And to come back to the question you put out, Jocelyn, you were saying, it seems like more things from Old Gods have stuck around. I don't think we can answer that question yet, because Old Gods is the only. It's been around the longest. It's the only we need to compare it to Un'Goro, and Un'Goro just hasn't been around long enough, because Old Gods was the first set after the first standard rotation. Un'Goro is the second after the second standard rotation, and I guess ask me in a year is my answer.
Well, yeah, and that's true. Like, we've just had our second rotation, and we haven't had 3 expansions in 1 year yet, so it is really hard to tell. I wish there was a way to see trends and stuff without having to actually wait years.
So Ziki in the chat room did make a really good point, though, that the crafting weight of the later expansions will be different because, if someone's asking, should I craft this card, you might want to tell them like, hey, make sure you craft a bunch of cards from that first set of the year, because those cards are going to be around for the absolute longest. But I think that for the most, for most of the player base, the casual player base, it's not really going to matter. They're just going to want the cards they want, right? So in general, it's like the cards are not necessarily going to have less impact because they're around for less time. They're going to have a lot of impact for the months you're playing the game during that period. So, whether or not they want to, front load all of the impactful cards is not something we can say yet. If they want to do that, there definitely be like a logical reason for it. But I would not like to see them make it so that we essentially have like 2 classic sets every rotation year, where we're like the first expansion and the classic set, those are the best cards in the game, and then every expansion after that is less impactful on purpose, and so we don't care about it as much. Like that, I don't want to see for sure. Now you could say that the player base will look at it maybe that way a little bit because the cards are there for less time, but they need to be shaking the meta up every single time. And so I one thing I do hope that they do is don't only do like card nerfs and things going to the Hall of Fame only at the beginning of a rotation. Do that every time it makes sense, whether it's in the middle of an expansion, at the beginning of a fresh one. Like, don't hold back on that stuff for the beginning of the year. Don't wait on that kind of stuff. I really don't want them to do that.
Agreed.
Thumbs up.
Yep. And we have the Hall of Fame now, and they've set the precedent that we get the dust when things go into the Hall of Fame. So I don't care when you throw things in the Hall of Fame either. You sick of Auctioneer and we want to throw them in there? Sure, I'll get over it.
Yep. Give me my dust. Let's do this. Just give me enough time to craft the golden one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Please let me know.
Yeah.
Because I totally forgot to craft golden Azure Drakes, and I will forever lament that fact.
Yeah, it's a lot of dust, man.
That was on me, by the way, not them. The way I phrased that made it sound like it was Flaming T5. No, I'm just stupid because I went out of my way to craft a golden rag in Sylvanas. I just kind of forgot. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for your emails. Again, if you'd like to send a line in to us, tacpodcast@gmail.com is the place to do so. Other than that, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/TAC is the place to go to for that. Thank you again, patrons. Thank you to our producers, Declan H. and Peter Williams. You guys are awesome. Check out The Angry Chicken all over the place. We're everywhere podcasts can be found. Go and subscribe if you haven't already. The whole back catalog is over at amove.tv or youtube.com/amovetv. We have t-shirts available at shirts.amove.tv, glassware at etched.amove.tv. You're probably noticing a pattern on the website here. Yes, Jocelyn's sitting there again with her A-Move pint glass, or Angry Chicken pint glass, which has A-Move on the other side, so it wasn't necessarily incorrect the first time I said it. Follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast, and catch us live Tuesday nights at 4 p.m. Eastern Time right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Thank you to BrianGriffithMusic.com for our intro and outro music. Dills, where can folks find you?
Check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WillieDills, and at WillieDills on Twitter. DHL Season 4 is in full swing. We're in Season 1, so you'll see a lot of casted, streamed matches on my channel over the next 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. I think we're going to take a break in the middle, so it'll be like 10. This is a long season. 10 weeks or so, something like that. Should be fun.
Awesome. Jocelyn, how about yourself?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. And this week, I'm not going to talk about the Gamers In. I'm going to talk about Embrace the Spoilers, because we are running a Kickstarter, Garrett and I, for the next season of Embrace the Spoilers, where we're going to be covering Season 7 of Game of Thrones. So I'm really excited. He's really excited. You can go to bit.ly/Embrace the Spoilers for our Kickstarter page. There's some really cool rewards, including covering some of the summer movies and also making me watch Indiana Jones. So, yay!
All three original.
All
Indiana
of them,
Jones.
all the original ones, yeah. Because apparently, seeing the crystal skull is the bad one.
Yep, it is. It is.
I mean, it is the bad one. But,
Straight up the bad one.
You'd probably there's enjoyment to be had in that movie. It's just not a good movie.
There's
still fun to watch Indiana Jones be Indiana Jones.
It's fun to watch Harrison Ford wear a fedora, but sadly they had to muck it up with script and CG monkeys
and LaBouffe.
Even
though it's like I'm not like a LaBouffe hater, but he was not good in that movie.
I liked him in that movie. It wasn't his fault that somebody went and wrote a scene where he swung on jungle vines with monkeys, and then someone went and animated it poorly.
I know that was pretty bad, but that was a dumb idea. You're right. He wasn't like he was terrible, but he didn't come across great to me, especially when you see him in movies like Fury and stuff, where he's actually like really good.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. Yeah, it's not his best performance. I think I would argue it's still better than Transformers, but
yeah, oh yeah, it's better.
That's not a very high bar, though, Garrett.
It's not. It's not. Can they stop making those so we can get a reboot from people who actually give a crap about the subject, please? I would love that.
But have you seen the trailer with the Transformer dinosaur? Because, yes, I like that. That looked cool.
You mean like the last two? Because you didn't specify by what you just said there didn't specify.
Yeah, the last one had dinosaurs in it, too.
Oh,
That's
did it?
the new
I
thing.
totally didn't watch it.
You didn't see that one?
No.
Yeah.
I'm a couple
That was all about the
months
dinosaurs.
behind. Oh, yeah, no.
The new one is me going, oh, they drug Anthony Hopkins into this. That's how I know it's the new one.
Poor guy.
Well, it has knights,
He
right?
smirched
So
his
he
name.
has to be involved in every movie that involves knights. It's
Anthony
like his thing now.
All right, Anthony Hopkins, if you're listening, because I know you are, here's a tip. You're Anthony Hopkins. You can say no. All right, folks, I'm on Twitter with groundbreaking opinions like what you just heard here, at Garrett Art. Every podcast I do can be found at amove.tv. Joss already mentioned Embrace the Spoilers, so I'll throw a little pimpage towards a new twice-a-month show that I just started called Mostly Car Stuff. It's about mostly car stuff. So go find that.
Shocking turn of events.
Yeah, go find that anywhere podcasts can be found if you want to listen to a dude who barely knows how to drive stick talk about having just coming to kind of owning his first manual car. It's entertaining if you like people who are bad at things. So go listen to that.
The internet loves people who are bad at things, Garrett.
They do. They're so kind and helpful in the comments.
Yep.
Always. So whatever the case is, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the support, patrons, one more time. And until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes!
Die in a fire, Mayor Noggenfogger.
Going outside, Iggy. Going outside, buddy. I know. Oh, man. I took you outside at the beginning of the damn show, and now you're freaking out again.